What your boys are, all rights reserved, commenter nation, greatest nation since. You already know how I rock. It's time for us to ask a very important question, and this question has a lot to do with Tentacion in his later times. Closer to his demise, was it a mistake for him to do certain interviews? Now, I've seen several interviews that he went live and he addressed certain topics publicly. Did this fuel the fire between a behind-the-scenes feud? Now, I already mentioned a DJ and manager that was questionable throughout the whole scenario that we're talking about. I also mentioned individuals that were moving eerily during this time, up until this time. Do you believe that it was a mistake that he went ahead and did what he did? Should he have fell back from doing interviews until he had the situation resolved? And the reason I say that is because the topics that came up. There were specific topics dealing with people, dealing with music, dealing with intellectual property, dealing with intellectual rights, just accusations. And he kind of placed them all out there without any type of remorse or any type of mindset towards coping with the situation. Did this become a mistake in the end? Now, we've seen many rappers that came out and talked about things, i.e., we've seen him speak, well, not directly, but others speak about how they protect themselves, what they do, what they're willing to do, what they're not willing to do. Could this have been one of the ultimate mistakes he made because he gave intel to those looking to take him out? This is crazy because when you think of it this way, everything's beginning to make sense in another section. You see, we chopped up many different sections and we put it all together, and we're looking at it as one unanimous view, almost like following his footsteps without having to trace the footsteps. We haven't even seen investigation able to trace the footsteps to an exact science at which they have gone to school for. So this is beginning to open up that, was this a mistake that he moved how he moved in these interviews, spoke on and answered certain questions that he answered that other artists were never willing to answer, that other artists passed questions, and they probably even deemed it up front that they're not going to speak on these subjects. That's letting people know how to get to you, how that works, what you're going to do when you're encountered, what's going to happen, what's going on, why it's going on, where you'll be, why you'll be there, how you'll be there. These type of questions alienate your safety factors and allow for those who may be plotting on you to get more in-depth information. Did these interviews subject him to just that? Look at the interviews he had up until his untimely demise. Sadly, him going so early. I think these factors, when you hear the questions, will begin to make sense. The way they were asking it, why they were asking it, whose favor were these interviews in? Now, I say that because one of the interviews we know is a big fan of some of the people he was alleged to have beef with. A huge fan, to the point where they shamelessly shouted it at the top of the mountain. That's part of what I'm trying to say. There's many different devices that were at work. Was this unbeknownst to him? This is very important to look at, another factor, because it will strongly support the ideology behind why certain things were hush-hush, behind-the-scene things may not have been so blatant as we expected it to, and certain perspectives were honored the way they were honored. When we look at these factors, it begins to paint a totally different picture. Now, let me go a little bit deeper into this. Not only was it the interviews, did he have odd interactions with people because he saw factors himself that we do not see, but we can almost fathom them because of different songs he made, different things that he was doing in his later time, how he started moving a certain way. Were there particular people he was wary of? That's another thing to look at, because if we find a connection to some of these superstars or the alleged beef he had going on, these factors would begin swirling and making a point to look at. This is all affluent to the situation we're looking at. When you're looking at all the issues that are affluent, when you're looking at all the situations that actually make sense and matter to us devising an understanding of the situation, you'll begin to build your own picture to the probable theories that could be out there. Now, without proof, accusations are not able to be made. But with ideology, theoretically, you're able to put together puzzles to build a picture into what could have occurred because of the repercussions of him taking to certain questions and exposing certain information that may have went against someone's motto, thoughts about another person, respects for another person, or even went against that person themselves if they were watching it. How many times have we seen this play over and over and over again, especially in a career that's on the rise and not in a fulfilled career, and then these guys have drama and an album comes out and they hash it out. There was no diss music made on his side to my knowledge as well. So why were people beginning to make diss songs? Could it have been because of these interviews and what was being said, that they felt jilted a certain way, that they're like, I gotta get this out, this person's making claims, but I'm gonna keep it music? Did they conclude to keep it music, or did it go deeper? That's another thought. See, all of these thoughts need to be seen for what they are, but it needs to start at a foundation. We got to see why. We got to understand why. I saw his apology on one of them. I've seen different details dealing with his thoughts towards certain actions and claims that other people were making towards a situation. You got to look at these things. This is how the vibration of someone's energy is manifested into a picture. It all takes steps. And when you do it in steps and the picture's created solid, they need an answer for each and every part of it. That's the thing. Or is it an excuse for each and every part of how the information is developed when we've seen him openly declaring things? Now, he made certain strong statements. These strong statements had to do with who he felt was against him. We do not know in detail why he felt or thought this way. We can only presume whether he accepted or denied certain terms of engagement. That's the bottom line. It's the terms of engagement that he could have been up against that would be hard to disclose to others around him because he did not know who to trust. This is a normality, whether you understand it or not, when you're dealing with the industry. You can disclose certain things to certain people, but on the other hand, you don't know whose pockets they may be in. You don't know whose affiliations that they have not made public. You don't even know who they have respect for and who they may be able and willing to get in the good graces of in order to boost their own status through a certain narrative of interacting in order to boost or build their status within the game. See, it's easy for me to conclude certain things and scream out a narrative. Oh, this happened. That happened. This is why it happened. But unless I have some type of foundation that can be narrated from, the conclusion cannot go to what it is that you say in the comments. So that is why I always say stay objective and explain what you're saying if you're going to say something without accusations, because then if you build a certain picture by which people can conclude and understand, you thwart the whole idea that you're making an accusation, because you're going off of what was narrated to you in public. The thing is, the narration of what's going on is right before us. It's right out there. It's not hidden. The only thing that's hidden is the actual perpetrator. That's the thing. You ever play the game Clue, where you're looking at different things and you're trying to put together narratives to see exactly who done it? Even in chess, you're looking at the titles and the skills of what it is and what piece you're moving, why you're moving it, and what it's going to do to help you get closer to victory. These are the type of things and the type of ideologies that should be used in any case or any understanding in order to make a conclusion in a conclusive way that is solid, to denote what type of outcome situation is affluent to what it is you see before you as a narrative. Listen to me. I see everything you guys see. I just don't take to it, because again, what did I tell you? Just because we knew beef was with someone doesn't mean that's the person who was active in doing it. You got to understand, someone who had hidden hate for someone would have easily looked at that situation like perfect timing for me to do my dirt, because everyone's going to think it's this person. Everyone's going to think it's that person. If I do it now, I can pin it on that person, or I can lay low and everyone's going to think what I want them to think, or think what he said was actually true, when in actuality, I was plotting on the backside. This is another strategy. So you got to look at the possible, probable, plausible strategies that can be utilized within a situation that is cornering an individual into a certain choice when they're going about their lives as a superstar. You don't have many choices. You're very limited to what you can do, and you have to be prepared. These are key factors, and this is what everyone around should learn to start conditioning their mind to think. This is very important, and I need everyone's minds to grasp around it, tighten up, and keep your eyes open. Keep your ears open. Stay focused on the goal. You know how I rock. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And as always, the greatest nation since United Nations, we've been patient and we've been waiting. We are on the grind. We're going to make the moves, and we're going to see where all the oddities step out of line. You know how I rock. All rights reserved.